No More Heroes. What can I say about this franchise of games that hasn't already been said? Released in 2008 by Guiji Suda, or Suda51, and his company Grasshopper Manufacture for the Nintendo Wii. It is often regarded as their best title, and I can certainly agree to that. I first encountered No More Heroes a few years ago, thanks to BrainScratch.com's playthrough of it, and it looked interesting to me. So, one purchase on eBay, and around a week of shipping later, the game was finally in my possession, and the rest is history. Was it the fun characters, or was it the snappy, satisfying gameplay with tons of blood, or was it the more artsy elements of the story? It definitely wasn't that last part. At least, at first it wasn't. The game drew me in with its over-the-top violence, the things you can see at the surface level, the blood, swearing, and general craziness of it all. So after many playthroughs, after I had become desensitized to all that stuff, I'd finally realize why I came back to it all the time. That it was those more artsy elements that kept me coming back. And from what I've read and heard online from other people, that seems to be a pretty common sentiment. Let's go over the story now. If you're watching this video at all, you probably already know all this, but best to cover all the bases. The story follows Travis Touchdown, a late 20s otaku living in the fictional city of Santa Destroy, California. He spends all his time lounging in his motel room apartment until one day he wins a beam katana from a web auction. Pretty much a knockoff lightsaber. He goes on a quest to become number one in the United Assassination Association, or UAA, run by Sylvia Crystal, a grifter in the purest sense of the word. Starting at number 11, he must kill the top 10 assassins, who are all interesting in their own ways. Between each bout, Travis must pay an entry fee. How does he make the money? By doing random jobs. Such riveting things like filling up cars with gas and cleaning graffiti. These will open up more lucrative jobs called assassination missions. Once you gain the required money, you can finally battle through the stage filled with punching bags till you reach the boss. The back and forth between the bosses and Travis are the biggest highlight of the game's story. Even though you only spend a few minutes with each before the fight, they all feel like fully fleshed out characters with their own aspirations. But it's clear that most of them harbor sadness or regret for the situation that they find themselves in. We see this clearly with the first boss, Death Metal. Travis comes in gung-ho about the prospect of this adventure he now finds himself on, calling the things that Death Metal has achieved in his career as an assassin paradise. A nice mansion on the beach with beautiful scenery.
Paid for with the lives of many.
Death Metal refutes that claim, saying that it's just the place where he will finally be killed. This one interaction between Travis and Death Metal is exactly where the more artistic side of the story shines through, and most of these pre-fight cutscenes have it on full display. Not all the bosses are like this, but most of them do show us a reflection of what Travis can become if he is to continue down this path, which he does. The thing that pulls it all together is Travis as a character. He is the textbook example of an unlikable protagonist. He is loud, immature, and a creep. Pretty much the exact opposite of what you look for in a hero. Suda often likes to have the main characters for his games to be normal people, not your typical white knights, so to speak. That sort of idea is exemplified in that cutscene with Death Metal at this very start of the game.
Arrogant, crude little shits like you come around from time to time.
Travis is not special. He wasn't the first, and he most likely wouldn't have been the last if he wasn't the main character. But at the end of the day, that is what makes him and his journey so interesting. Not to say that the story is perfect, because it definitely isn't. The fact that Travis forgets the whole reason for him trying to get to number one comes off as a lazy excuse to have some faux dramatic reveal at the end of the game, and it did Henry so dirty. He makes his presence known, and I really mean that, then he fucks off till the ending for yet another not so dramatic reveal. At least it sort of works because the game is obviously being self-aware.
Why the hell do you call me Travis? Travis, like you're my friend or something. Who the fuck do you think you are?
You can't be serious. All this time you didn't realize.
What are you talking about?
I'm your twin brother.
What the hell? That's the craziest shit I've ever heard. Why would you bring up something like that at the very last minute of the game?
I would have thought you and the player would have at least expected a twist of fate of some kind.
So not perfect, but still very enjoyable and rememberable. So that's a very basic overview of the story. What about the gameplay? In between stages, you drive around the admittedly barren open world of Santa Destroy, taking side jobs and assassination missions to gain enough money to pay the fees. If you are a little short on cash, you can find dumpsters which hold money as well as different t-shirts to wear. There is Area 51 where you can buy clothes with your leftover pocket change to spice up your style. There is Thunder Reuse Dojo where you can increase your combo length, attack power, and health for a fee. Dr. Naomi's Lab where you can purchase new beam katanas after certain ranks as well as parts to increase your power and energy. You can find these red balls around the city, and when you find 7 you can trade them with this trunk for some pretty badass techniques. All of them are pretty useful. The only one I don't bother with is the one that shows the positions of enemies on the map. I can see it being useful in the free fight missions which require you to kill the enemies without getting hit, but that's about it. Let's move on to the combat. You can attack with either high or low stance. If you are playing with motion controls, then you can just point the Wii Remote or the Switch controller up or down, depending on the one you want to use. For button controls, high and low attacks are mapped to different buttons. Think of it as high attacks are light and low attacks are heavy. After slashing for long enough, you'll run out of battery, requiring you to charge up the beam katana by. As well as slashing with the katana, you can also do melee attacks to stun an enemy, which you can then lead into a wrestling move doing massive damage. Whenever you knock an enemy to the ground, you can follow it up with one of the most satisfying moves in all of my gaming experience. That instant kill is just so great to me, and I don't know why. Speaking of satisfying, I love all the little flourishes after doing certain things, usually through the use of little jingles. Really gives the more mundane tasks you do in this game more charm. Speaking of jingles and music, all I can say is thank you Masafumi Takada and Jun Fukuda. Thank you for not only creating one of the most catchiest main themes, final boss themes, and credit themes, which each have their own gimmick. You Face the Boss, which are just okay. Most of the problems come down to the use of reflect frames. It doesn't really encourage any sort of experimentation. The joy in the combat really does rely on its visceralness. I'm of course talking about death blows. Deplete the enemy's health, swing the control in the direction of the arrow, and BAM! Satisfaction. The biggest issue with the combat is how repetitive it can get. Even if the stages try to mix things up with different gimmicks, I enjoy this game, but even I can't marathon it all the way through. I suggest taking a break after every 2 or 3 ranks.
I know a lot of gamers out there don't have
So what about No More Heroes has solidified my taste in media? It's the simple characters that have more depth than what meets the eye. It's the themes that the story presents. That what looks like a simple story on the surface has a lot of hidden depth that, yeah, takes some effort to see, but isn't stuff more rewarding when you have to work for it? So thank you, No More Heroes, for helping me realize what I like to see in media. Not just video games, but things like movies, music, and television. And thank you for watching this video.